The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to number 4 of Dallas McMillan's Building Your Digital Brand, Building Your Digital Influence webinar series. This is number 4 of 5 of the series, and what we're going to be looking at tonight is the buyer's journey and building value for the buyers through a social sales process. So what Dallas is going to step us through tonight is the steps that the buyer will be going through themselves as they work their way up to buying your complete and remarkable solution that we all know we should have prepared, ready for our buyers. So off we go, Dallas.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Bronwyn, and welcome to everyone who's on the line tonight. We've got quite a lot of extra registration, so there'll be a number of newcomers who haven't joined us before. As Bronwyn said, this is part of a series, and we're looking at the bigger issue of creating an online social sales process. Today, we're sort of diving into the background of that, which is understand how your buyers search for, choose, and buy your most valuable products and services. So just to make sure everyone can hear me okay, if you can hear me and see my screen, if you can type in your name and where you're watching from, and I'll just confirm that everyone can see okay, and then we can launch into the content. So you should be seeing my smiling face and a bit of a blue background there. If you can see it, type in your name and location, and we'll just check everyone is getting good audio and video quality. Great number of people coming through. That's great. So Elizabeth from Melbourne, Justine from Sydney, Gihan from Perth, Katrin from Camaranga. Hi, Katrin. Desley, Rockhampton, Audrey here from Brisbane, Heather from Adelaide, Hans from Geelong, Tracy from Sydney, heaps of people, Lisa from Sydney. Great, lots of Sydneyites tonight. Okay, so yeah, I'll just quickly step through what we've done so far, because there's quite a few extra registrations that won't have seen the last few webinars. This is sort of zooming in on a 5-step process that I use for my clients to build their digital brand. And in the it's part of this course I'm doing, Digital Influence, which is really a digital branding course. What's in the course is to start with a free module, which everyone who's registered here will get access to, which is Brand, Digital and Influence Fundamentals. So that's really the basic stuff that you need to know about branding and the online world and sales and marketing before you go and try and build a website. Because what I see is clients come to me, or they go and hire a web designer or a social media person, or outsource their marketing, and they do it before they've actually got the basics in place, the stuff they need to know to even make the right decisions about marketing. So I want to make sure that anyone taking this course sort of has that background, so that they're not putting time and effort into something that's really the wrong approach to building their online presence. The next module is what's called beachhead strategy, and that's what we covered in the last webinar. So the idea with a beachhead strategy is that rather than trying to market to every possible market out there, we pick one market that we can win, and then we can own and defend, and then expand from into other markets. So it's really about figuring out what one remarkable result will we be known for a specific set of clients, and then being able to consistently deliver that product, and then expand our business within that niche and then out into other niches. So it's really about niching, but with that express idea, we want a niche that we can then grow a bigger business from. Then today's session is on the buyer's journey, and this is really the steps that your buyers go through on their path to buying your most valuable products and services. Now, we all buy stuff online, and most of what we buy online is just cheap things that we already we're pretty happy with the product. We already know what it is. We want to buy it cheap and fast and get free delivery and not have to go to the shops. Selling stuff like that online is easy. My clients are mostly professionals, and their services and products might be $5,000 or $10,000 or more, If it's not good, people are not happy, and that can be very expensive. So that sort of product is much harder to sell online. And for them, we're doing lead generation. We're trying to attract clients, and we're trying to set up the start of the relationship to sell these more valuable products. But so the journey we're going to go into today is very different for marketing these more complex products than it is for just selling shoes or lipstick or vitamin supplements or something online, which is a commodity sale. So that's what today's webinar is about. There are actually a few more webinars to go, and if you've registered for any of the webinars so far and you're here tonight, then you'll be signed up for these subsequent webinars as well. So effectively, all these webinars are looking at different aspects of our social sales funnel. The next webinar is on our brand architecture and how we build authority for ourselves as an expert at what we do, and thus why people should buy from us through the messages we share. While this step is saying, the session today is about the steps the buyer goes through, the next session is about how do we communicate with the buyer at each stage of their journey. And then the module after that, the actual the social sales funnel, that's about how we structure our actual online marketing and how we deliver those messages through social media, search engine traffic or pay-per-click advertising, publishing things, etc. So that's sort of the how we get it out there. And then the final one is how you put this all together to actually build your online presence. So that starts with building an online platform, and then building relationships with people, publishing content, and selling products and services, and ultimately selling a high-value product at the end of that. So that's the 5 modules, which there are a few more webinars, and you will be registered for those as well. But as we said today, I'll transfer back to my my PowerPoint screen now, and just let me know. We should be seeing a full screen PowerPoint here, and just summarizing those 5 modules: first, beachhead strategy, relationship roadmap, which is what we're doing today, authority architecture, narrative sales process, and then designing and developing our online marketing platform. Okay, so to start with, I just want to take you through the steps that your buyer goes through when they're searching for, choosing, and buying your most valuable products and services. And it's really important to understand where they're coming from, the steps they go through, and I'm sure you'll recognize your own buying process in this slide. So to start with, when people are looking for valuable products and services, they don't actually know what they're looking to buy. They start off with some symptom that's bugging them, and they don't understand what the symptom means, and they don't understand how they should fix it, or even how it fits into their world. So the next step, after noticing they have a symptom, is to go searching for answers. And they're just going to Google their symptom effectively, or ask a friend. And what they're looking for is someone to tell them, oh, your symptom means this, or here's a list of things about your symptom. And this might be something like, my car won't start and it's making this noise, or I have a business and my contractor says that they need this special type of support. Should I be, do I need to provide this or not? They've got a problem, and they're just looking for extra information to know the next step to take, because they've never experienced it before. When they're searching, they're just trying to pattern match to their symptom. And because they're not experts at what they do, like you are, as a provider of services to them, they don't know which symptoms are important. And a lot of the time, as I'm sure you've noticed, people come in and say, oh, I've got this symptom, and therefore, I need this. And very often they've misinterpreted the most important symptoms. So it's really important to recognize that this process, these steps are pretty consistent, but they're really fallible, and a lot of the time they're going to deliver a poor outcome. So in the second step, they're searching, and then when they get search results, they're filtering them subconsciously to say, is this for me? Is this symptom that's being described in this search result or on Google, or when a friend says, oh yeah, I had a friend who had that problem too, they're immediately trying to say, is that the same as what I've got? Is their business like mine? Is there, are they an athlete like I am and they want a specific result? They're trying to look for indicators that the information they're getting is relevant to them in their world. And they do this without realizing it by just looking for people like them. So this is a highly social step, and it's not obviously social from the outside, but people, when they go to a website, they're quickly looking, does this look like this website's for businesses like mine or for people like me, or is it for other people and I should ignore it? And so they're self-selecting the information they're looking at to decide whether it's relevant to them. Having decided, yeah, this information is relevant, they then sort of integrate the information and start to form a worldview and frame their situation and make sense of what's going on. They say, look, it seems my symptom means this specific thing. And I should give a really simple example here. Let's say I recently started running. I've done a lot of trail running, and I thought, look, maybe I should do a marathon. I started doing a bit of running, and almost immediately I got shin splints. Now, if I go online and search my symptom of shin splints, which is shooting pains down the front of my leg for those who haven't had the joy, so pain in the shins, and I'd quickly find shin splints, and then I'd find a number of web pages, and some of them would be geared toward, pro athletes, and some would be geared toward recreational runners, and some would be produced by shoe manufacturers, and some would be on forums, and some would be on physiotherapists' websites or personal trainers' websites. I'm very quickly deciding, yeah, look, I'm really interested in what the triathletes have to say, or look, I don't really trust those shoe salespeople because they're just trying to sell me shoes, but I trust the physios because they're probably treating problems like this all the time. Or maybe I've had bad experiences with physios and decided, no, look, that's not what I want to know. I want to know what the recreational runners, on the ground are saying, how they deal with shin splints. So do you see how we very quickly decide, yeah, this website's for me, that information is relevant to me or it's not, and that informs how we interpret the information. And that's the next step is sense making, where I might realize, oh, the reason that I have shin splint pain is that I've started running too quickly, and I should have gradually built up with small amounts of running, and then built up to more and more running over time until I condition myself. That might be how I make sense of my situation. But what's critical here is who they identify within the earlier step will determine what sense they make of it. If instead I came across a barefoot runner's site, they might say, oh, look, shin splints are always caused by running in sneakers. What you should be doing is running barefoot or running in an ultra lightweight shoe, like a minimalist running shoe. And you see, I've got the same symptoms, I found the same search results, but I can kind of head down either of these paths and make sense of my personal situation based on who I identify with. And we, as sellers, we want to plug into this and figure out, well, who are we marketing to, and really understand our buyer, so that they're choosing our way of seeing the world. And this sense-making step is really, it's the center of this process, and it's a pivotal point for us too, because it's where we can explain we can bring our expertise to explain people's experience of the world and thus build a know, like, trust relationship, which leads on to sales. Because having interpreted that, perhaps I should be wearing these minimalist running shoes to avoid shin splints, then the solution I look for will be a minimalist running shoe. Whereas if I'd decided, no, really the problem is that I've built up to it too quickly, then maybe I'd look at joining a runner's club, or the solution will be totally different. So once I've got the solution, then I'll go looking for a supplier. And the this is really significant because to us as providers of expert information or products or services, when this sequence occurs in this order and the supplier comes like almost at the end, then you've got very little control over this buying process, and you're commoditized. The solution is the star of this story. The supplier is incidental almost, and if I want to go and buy some barefoot running shoes or a fancy pair of Nikes or whatever I've decided is the solution to my problem, I don't really care who sells it to me. I've decided the brand I want, and I'll go and buy it, and whoever's got it, I'll buy it from them. So the supplier has very low status in this situation. But then hopefully I buy my solution from my supplier, and then I'm satisfied and have a great outcome and run happily ever after. Now, if you're like, I used to be a vet, and I've been doing a bit of locuming lately, and this has really been brought home to me just how common this process is. So often people come in and say, "Oh, I've got this symptom. My dog is doing X, Y, Z, and I've figured out it means this." They're almost always wrong. You can pretty much ignore it. It's going to be a red herring at best, and likely significantly misleading. And a large part of my role is actually winding them back and saying, sorry, I'm not a supplier. I'm not here to sell you an X-ray or a particular medication. You've got the wrong lay of the land here. My role is to help you go through this process and understand what your symptoms are, and then plan an effective treatment strategy based on that. And if they think that they're going to self-diagnose and buy the solution from me, that's not how it works. And that's a great example where if people think they know the product or the solution they need, then the amount you can charge for it and the amount of value you can deliver is much less. In that case, someone might say, "Oh, I need antibiotics because my chook's got a runny eye or my dog's got a limp," whatever it is. Chances are I will actually sell them the wrong thing, and that will reflect poorly on me. Whereas by following my process, then we'll get to the right answer. I'll be able to sell them the right thing, and I can charge for my expertise, not charge for a medication. So that's another simple example of how this the process should work. And very often people get this wrong, and effectively we're putting the cart before the horse. So if you do the process wrong, you can't expect to get a good outcome, and yet so often that's how people approach it. And what we need to do is to actually offer a superior customer journey, and we need to communicate to people clearly, no, the way you're going about this is wrong, and you should do it my way. And generally they're not very receptive to this, and there's a way to deal with this. And this is meant to inspire some reflection on where people think they are versus where they really are. So people think that they can just search for their symptom and find the simple solution to replace it based on looking at what other people on the internet have said or what their friend said worked for them, and that it'll be clear sailing till the end. They'll have bought their simple solution and they'll live happily ever after. Now, as we know, life doesn't always go to plan, and in practice, more likely their pathway it looks more like this, where there's a series of challenges of which they have no idea on the path to understanding their situation and then to implementing a solution. And if, in fact, your product or service matches this top buying pathway, you have a commodity.
Dallas?
Yes.
Dallas, I think we've got a problem with the slides here.
Okay, yes.
I'm just seeing, it seems to have slipped out of presentation view.
All right, great.
And I'm still seeing the digital, it just wasn't clicking through.
Can you see it now, Bronwyn?
Yes, I can.
So have you got your plans and the universe's plans for you?
Yes, that's right. That's
Okay,
what we're seeing now.
all
And
good
we're
now?
seeing it in presentation view.
Great. Sorry, it wasn't obvious that it happened. Terrific. So yeah, in case people missed the visuals, people think they've got a simple solution and they hope they've got a simple solution. We all hope that when we've got some problem that it's going to be cheap, fast and easy to fix. And but for my clients who sell professional services, that's not the case. They're not selling cheap, fast, simple solutions to cheap, fast, simple problems. That would be a different type of shop. What they sell is expert solutions to complex problems. But what they need to convey to people to effectively communicate the value that they deliver and to increase that value is that the pathway to the solution is much more complex. And um, on this, at the right-hand side of the universe's plans for you here, you can see this little shining light. That effectively is the prize. That's the solution that we can get to if we follow the pathway. But along that pathway, there are some challenges. And I think this is a great metaphor for how to communicate what you do for your clients. So what I'm going to do next is we'll do a little bit of recapping on some of what's gone before. In Beachhead strategy, we really looked at the concept that we want to be known for one thing. We want to be able people to know that what we do, who we do it for, when we help them, like what situation they find themselves in that when we're relevant, and also what result we give them. So it's really who we are, what we do, who we serve, and when they need us, and then what we deliver to them. And the when is a really important thing. If I'm selling a a mortgage broking service, I don't want to get a call right when they're about to go to contract and have to sort of scrabble around trying to deliver a loan really quickly. I want to talk to them when they're planning to buy a property, and that means that I can work out how much they can borrow, and then they can go into the market with a better idea of what their finance is, and we can have everything arranged so that when they choose a house, everything's ready to go. So the timing is really important. Um, and that's often missed when people are developing their pitch or their tagline or their elevator pitch. That if I help people who are looking to buy a house when they're first going out and want to know how much they can borrow. That's the time that a mortgage broker would love to speak to someone who's looking to buy a house. So within the second module, we're starting to look at how we're going to communicate to our customers why they should use us and what we can give to them. And thinking about our pathway, if we view the path to a solution as a series of hurdles, this can be represented as a series of challenges or problems that they face, and we can actually tell a bit of a story about how you get from A to B. This is a great way to talk about a case study, for example, where I can say, Jim and Joan were looking to buy a house, and they'd looked around for a while and had trouble finding anything in their market, and they really found the types of houses they wanted. They'd been to a few banks, they couldn't borrow the money. So luckily someone referred them to me, the mortgage broker, and we were able to find a bank that would lend to them on the types of properties they were looking to buy, and they could go in and negotiate much more effectively because they knew how much they could borrow, and they did have a ceiling as well, so they could sort of say, oh look, that's all we've got. That put them in a much more powerful position to buy. So we, as people, we just remember stories much better than we do facts and figures and things like that. So any way that we can be telling a story about our customers and make the story about our customers and not about us, that leads to great marketing, and marketing that's remembered by people and easy to share with other people. So that's the goal here, and I'm going to talk a bit more about how to implement this. this is picking up on a model from a book I've referred to multiple times in these webinars, Conversations That Win the Complex Sale. And so their approach is that there are 4 stories we want to tell. We have a why change story, and then we have 3 more stories about the challenges of changing. And going back to our getting to our goal situation here, the why change story is really deciding to make that leap into, yes, I should go ahead and buy a product. I will buy a house, or I will go and see a mortgage broker. And I'll go into more details to what that involves. The challenge stories are that once we've decided to take that step, there are specific obstacles that we need to overcome. And in our marketing, when we want to be known for our one remarkable result, we're effectively talking about, we just talk about how great it will be to get here. We don't talk about, at the start of our marketing, we don't talk about all the problems along the way, because people think they're in this situation. They really think, yeah, look, I'm just going to sail along and buy my house and there won't be any problems along the way. If we talk too early about all the problems, they're going to go with someone else who's selling a more rosy version. Now, once the conversation turns to business, we need to have a plan for how we're going to introduce the importance of getting this process right. And this message framework, which comes from Conversations That Wins the Complex Sale, is really about how you introduce this into your sales conversations and into your marketing. But at first, we're just saying it would be really great to get to this goal of buying the house, or running a marathon, whatever the outcome is that we're moving toward. But first, we need to convince people that it's actually worth changing how they're going about it now. And in the mortgage broker example, this might be that people think, oh, look, I'll just go and see the Commonwealth Bank because I've always used them, and that'll be fine. Why do I need to change what I'm doing? As a provider, we want them to realize that the status quo isn't working for them, and there's some great ways to do that. One of the most useful is to just view the why change as sort of an alarm that you're not where you are now and the way you're doing things, it's broken, and more than that, it's actually unsafe or dangerous. So that there's a real impetus to change how we're doing things. And I'll go into that in more detail in a moment, but then our challenge stories are that along the way to our journey, there's these obstacles that we've got to overcome. What we want to do in our messaging is to introduce these obstacles, and people will realize, oh wow, I didn't realize that was an important part of this process. I'm glad I know that. But we want to have an answer for each of these challenges as well. So we've painted this picture that getting to where they want to go, it's a worthy goal, but there's things they need to know along the way. And because we're describing the landscape, the pathway to change, they realize we know the way better than they do. They thought they knew where they were going, but they actually have no idea how to get there. And this builds trust in us, and it informs them of the types of challenges that they have to face along the way. Because if we just sell our product to them without explaining the complexities, then they're often frustrated at the challenges they face along the way and think, well, why can't I just get to the flag? Why are you putting me through all these obstacles? The obstacles are inherent in the journey, but we're just telling them about them. So the first step, why change? The essence here is to point out that the status quo, the way they've been doing things so far, is no longer safe. In fact, it's risky, expensive, or dangerous. And one way I'd like to talk about this, and you've probably heard similar approaches, is a triple threat, to pick 3 of these things that people have changed how they're doing things now. You need to change because society's changed, and what used to work no longer works because of how people are. Another reason that things don't work like they used to, or that once effective strategies no longer work, is that the politics or bureaucracy's changed. There's new legislation, or they've lowered barriers to entry for overseas companies, which means that you're no longer competitive unless you've got some new technology. The next example is economic change, where changes in prices, in trade tariffs, or profit margins, have meant that what worked before no longer works. And the last common sort of threat to the status quo is technological change. That there's some new technology that's disrupted the way the industry used to be, and that they need to adapt or they risk extinction. And the point of this why change story is to make it clear that what they were doing before and this purchase that they're considering, it's not an optional transition, that actually this is a critical survival issue. And obviously you can't completely make this up, but if you're in an industry where there isn't a driving need to change, then it's hard to develop high value and high profit margin products. Another way of looking at this is there will be some of your customers for whom change is essential and staying the same is very risky. They're your ideal clients, or they're your beachhead market. They're the ones who's easiest to sell to. So you can also use this as a tool to think, well, who is going to be easiest to sell to because there's new bureaucracy, which means that they're under threat, or their profit margins are slipping because of overseas imports, or there's a new technology that means they have to buy our product or they'll go broke. So one of the fundamental things about the why change story is that these threats should be external, and I like to think of them almost like the weather, and and as powerful forces beyond our control. What we want here is that we can say, oh, the government bureaucracy's changed, isn't it terrible? And other people, everyone else in your industry is experiencing the same thing. This is not your fault, and it's not my fault either, because you don't want to be, as the salesperson or or when marketing your business, you don't want to be the bringer of bad news and sort of say, oh yeah, look, I've examined your systems and they suck, so we have to get you some new ones. Instead, you want to say, look, your systems were fine, but because of this new bureaucracy, unless you meet this standard, then you're breaking the law and you can face this fine. That's a much better story, because it puts you in the kind of you're letting them know about the bad news, but you're also bringing the solution. Say, look, we can change. There is a path to change. And for the Game of Thrones fans, winter is coming. Like there is some overwhelming force out there where if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't get serious, you're going to get wiped off the map. So it's important. It's an external threat. It's beyond their control, and it's kind of nothing to do with your product or service. So in contrast, the three challenges, these are challenges to change. So once we've decided to change, we identify three things that are actually stopping us getting to the goal. And with each of these, in order to create a valuable, like a high value proposition, we want to have a specific differentiator which lets us solve that problem in a unique way that no one else can. So for a specific aspect of getting to the solution, we want to have something about us or our business or our solution that our competitors don't have, that means that we can deal with this problem, and that adds value to the deal. So in our example, we had the Rockfall, it might be a hard hat. And obviously in your industry, this is going to be different. If I'm the mortgage broker, perhaps I've got access to, one of the hard things about getting loans for this particular couple might be that they're, self-employed, and I've got access to some special lenders who have, who let self-employed people get a loan more readily. And it's something that no one else in my city has. So that's an example of a differentiator that means I can help them overcome one of the challenges on the path to the prize. And likewise, for each of these challenges, we want to have a specific and ideally a proprietary solution that means that we've solved this problem in a way that no one can. Now, each of these on their own would be fairly convincing, but coupled with like having the three of them and coupled with the wide change story leaves people feeling like, well, how else could I possibly get to where I want to go? who else would have these solutions to the problems that we're going to face on the path to the change we want to make. And so our third challenge is slippery when wet, and we've got these special treaded tires. So 3 ways to deliver our unique value that no one else can, that leads our client to solving their problem in a way that other people can't provide. So if we and one thing to remember is with these 3 differentiators, you'll probably remember from my last slide, I'll switch over to that shortly, that if we had is, does, and means as the elements, but also supported by these three aspects of our brand differentiation, which are that it needs to be relevant, it needs to be different to the competition, and it needs to have substance. Our differentiator needs to have each of those characteristics, and they sort of support the value of our brand. So our why change story is effectively supported by these three challenges. So we say we need to change, we need to go toward the prize, but to get there, there's 3 problems that business, that young people trying to buy a home face, or that businesses like yours adapting to this new economy need to solve, and that we have 3 specific differentiators ideally suited to your situation through which we can deliver value. Now, look, I might just go to any questions about that, because I know it's a lot of information we've gone through there, and I want to make sure you sort of get this idea that effectively there's 4 parts to this sales conversation: the why you have to change what you're doing now, why you need to buy a product like mine, and then also we've got 3 different challenges to solving the problem, and that our solution solves those in a unique way that means that we can deliver more value, or that we're the only person to choose. What this is basically doing is saying, yes, you need to buy, but also once you've learned this, you'll realize that no one else can get you to where you want to go. And if we just pop back to our initial pathway here, effectively what we're doing is painting the landscape. They thought that they were just going to cruise on their bike up to the finish line, and that it would be a cheap, fast, and easy solution. Our story is saying, first of all, you have to move from where you are. It's not safe. You do need to make this journey. However, there are 3 horrible obstacles along the way, and we have a specific solution for each of those. So in this case, it's a bridge and a flying fox and a ladder to get them through these challenges and to where they want to go. This lets us share these challenges and our differentiators in a social storytelling way. And what's important in the way this story is structured is that, first of all, we talk about their business and the situation they're in and the challenges they're facing that are beyond their control. So it's all about them and their worldview and the difficulties they're having. Then we're talking about getting to the prize and how that will solve their problems. But on the way, there's these 3 challenges. Our business and our products only come into the story when there's already a need established that they must change, and that there are these 3 challenges they need to face. We only start talking about ourselves when there's a pressing need to solve these 3 problems. So the story's about them. We only promote ourselves when there's a necessity for it. And in contrast to the other buying process that I showed you before, where the provider comes at the end of the story, in this story, you're here at the very beginning of the story saying, this is where you need to go. And I can't make this journey for you. You have to get there yourself, but I can equip you with the tools that you need to get there, and I can show you the path. And clearly you can't make this journey without me, but that it is your journey. So in contrast to the other story where the the this is sort of the commodity buying process. The star of this story is really the solution, and the supplier is incidental. In contrast, as the guide who tells this story, the customer is the hero of this story, but the guide is indispensable to a successful outcome. So I'll go to questions now, and I'd like to, just get some feedback on if this is helpful to you, and you can see how you might use this in your marketing, and particularly in your sales conversations. And also, if you have any questions about different aspects of it or how you'd implement it. And I might hand over to you too, Bronwyn, if you have any questions, and also just to manage the chat there.
Dallas, that's all been very thought-provoking, especially for me. I like the universe's plans for you journey, and how to work that into a story. You mentioned before about the differentiators, and I didn't quite catch the third one of making your differentiators. The first one was making your differentiator relevant to the customer or potential customer, and the second one was making yourself different to the competition, I believe, but I didn't get the third one. If you could just repeat those points, that'd be great.
Certainly. I've got those in a different PowerPoint, so I'll change over to that.
Okay.
I just have to be a bit careful.
And Anita has asked, could you please put up the slide starting with the symptoms, as we did not see it?
Yes, I have got that there, and so Anita should be able to see that now. So people start only knowing their symptom, they don't know what's going on, and then they search for an explanation for their symptom. They filter that through a social lens to say, is this person like me? I've found a person on Google who is writing in a forum about having shin splints or getting a home loan or whatever the problem is. Are they like me? Is this relevant to me? And this is very much a matching to people like me step. Then they make sense of their symptoms and say, the reason, this is sort of the aha moment, the reason that I have shin splints is that I am wearing the wrong shoes, or I started running too fast. Or the reason I can't get a loan is that I should be using a mortgage broker, not a bank. And that sense making then lays the path for a specific solution. Once we've chosen a solution, that limits who can sell it to us. Once I've decided I should be seeing a mortgage broker, not a bank, or once I've decided I need a special type of running shoe, then that limits the suppliers that I'll consider, and then I'll compare suppliers and ultimately make a purchase that hopefully will solve my problem. And in practice, as you can imagine, a lot of the time people get each of these steps wrong. Each of these steps can go wrong in multiple ways. So people think that they're looking, they think they want to self-diagnose, they think they want the quick fix, but in fact, they don't understand that they aren't on this journey, they're on this journey. And if you embark on this journey, prepared for this journey, the outcome will be tragic. So that's really the essence. Justine says, sounds like romper room. All right, so I'll go to the other, I'll just change the screen I'm sharing, and I'll go to the other PowerPoint presentation. So this is just
while you're switching PowerPoint presentations there, Dallas.
Yep.
Heather has asked about the concept of value. So from the client's point of view, or the potential client's point of view, is that value perceived, or are we explaining that? Are we explaining the value as part of the story that we're telling?
The value is only ever perceived, really. The only value you can deliver is the value that your customer perceives. If the customer perceives no value, you've delivered no value. So a huge part of your task in delivering value is to communicate value, not just deliver it. And that's somewhere where, as technicians and business owners and professionals and entrepreneurs, we often miss it. We think, oh, I've got this amazing product, service, solution. Everyone's going to love it. If people don't see the value, then there's no value to anyone but you. It's not in the product or service. It's in the perception of the customer. In terms of how we explain it, the value is, I don't think you need, like, part of, it's generally better to show the value rather than tell people about it. So rather than say, oh, and you know, my product is so great, instead, if you show them how your product is great, how it helps them, or how some aspect of your service is better than the competition, that's more valuable. And so I'm just changing the screen back to the other PowerPoint now. Okay, so can you see this new PowerPoint screen now? We should see the supported brand value pyramid.
See that, but it's not in slideshow view yet, though, Dallas.
Okay, cool, great. So this is coming back to your question, Bronwyn. The three pillars that support value are that it must be relevant to the customer. They need to care about it. It needs to be meaningful to them. It needs to match what they need. You know, if I'm a mortgage broker selling home loans effectively, if someone doesn't want to buy a house, they don't want my product. So it needs to be relevant. Then it needs to be different. If I'm one of many mortgage brokers with the same product or service, then it's hard for me to charge a premium or to attract clients easily because I'm the same as everyone else. That means people will unable to tell the difference. People will tend to shop on price and other things that they can readily understand. And then you need substance. You need some proof that you can deliver the result, because until people, the nature of these more complex products versus, you know, a simple product like a pair of shoes or a cup of coffee or something we understand and buy every day, they're more complex. So we actually don't understand the value until we receive it. So one of the ways we can, you know, confirm that it's worth buying the value in advance is to look at proof of what others have got by buying it. So things like case studies or examples or guarantees, so that if it doesn't work, you can get your money back. They're all ways to add substance to your offer. So those are the three pillars that support the brand value. And as we said in earlier webinars, brand value is comprised of what your product or service is. So that's the things you've got, the stuff. Then there's what it does. That's the results and it produces and the benefits it gives. And then there's the meaning, and that's what people can be, do, or become because of your product. So with a mortgage broker, the does is to find a home loan at a competitive price in a short amount of time without racing around to all the banks in town. That's the benefit of going to a mortgage broker. What it means is that someone who thought they could never buy a home can become a proud home owner. So most of the value is really in the meaning, but we tend to look for the value in the benefits. One of the things about if I try to change my screen back to the other slideshow, I can't actually see the other one now. Sorry, I just got to change back to the other slide presentation. Can you see it now, Bronwyn? Just let me know.
I've just got the intro 5 principles of a perfect online profile.
Okay, and sorry, just change it back to the other PowerPoint. What can you see now, Bronwyn?
I'm still seeing the same thing.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm on a laptop today, so it's a little bit of a juggle. Buyer's journey. This should be the right one. Can we see a horse at the moment?
Not just yet, but it sometimes takes a couple of seconds to come up.
Okay.
No luck there, Dallas. I'm
No,
sorry.
no worries. It says it's showing me a horse, but doesn't seem to be cooperating at your end. So,
Oh, you've got to love technology, haven't you?
yep, for sure. So it might catch. Oh, there we go. How's that?
Now we're right.
Okay. So one of the things about the Your Plans section is that when people think that their problem is simple, then when they first come to you, they will be very concerned with, oh, look, I need to fix my shin splints, or I need to, get a loan to buy a house, or whatever the thing is they want. And at first, they urgently want to know the answer. What's the problem here? How do I get to the solution? At first, their concerns are, look, I really need to know the answer. When they think it's a simple process, they immediately switch to saying, oh, so how much is this? They think that all they need to know is the price. And the minute that you start getting into, features and price and time deliveries, then the value immediately drops, because you're on that level of the stuff that you can deliver, rather than the meaning. When you're telling your marketing story about this more complex buyer's journey, then the language you're trying to keep in the realm of the benefits and the meaning that they're heading toward, rather than the features and benefits. So while our differentiators will be based on physical things about our product or service, or qualifications or other stuff, we want to focus on the results that helps them achieve. So we have this rope bridge, which means that we can overcome this challenging valley, and we've got this little boat here which will get us across this lake. Now, it's important that we don't focus just on the features of our product or service, because people will immediately move from features to price, and they assume that the path is simple and that's all they need to know. We want to make it clear that they've got a role in this journey, and that that the value we're delivering is about overcoming these specific challenges, not just giving them the widget or giving them the running shoes. So we want to add more value along the way. Just go back to questions, and yeah, any other questions about implementing this? Because effectively, what this does is forms a template for the marketing stories that we're going to tell in things like social media, or in case studies on our website, or if we get a PR opportunity. Rather than talking about our business, we can tell the story of one of our customers and how they thought they wanted to buy a house, and they thought it would be simple, but they didn't realize that actually prices were going up. They were getting locked out of the housing market. They actually needed to act quickly. So that's the why change story. And that there were three things blocking them from home ownership. They were self-employed. They were younger, new homeowners. They weren't married. Maybe that makes a difference. And they hadn't accrued much savings. They were the three challenges that they faced, and that our solution should address each of those three challenges. And we really want to be tailoring that whole story to one specific market. So this is our beachhead. We want to understand their reasons for changing, what the driving impetus is to change, but also the challenges that they specifically face in changing, and then build our business and our products and services to specifically meet the challenges they face.
So we haven't got any other questions in the box at the moment, but I just from my own perspective, um, in my own business of helping other business owners prepare their business to take on contracts with larger organisations, I've found that getting business owners to switch to that mode of thinking of actually telegraphing them what their solution means it's a bit of a step change for a lot of business owners. Once they get it, it becomes second nature, but it is definitely a bit of a step up to get a business owner's head around incorporating that story. Have you found that in working with your clients?
Absolutely, and this is a really sophisticated marketing strategy that you don't need to sell cheap stuff. If you're selling, conveyancing for $800, then you don't need it. When you're selling a very large sort of suite of services to a big organization, then just trying to sell on features alone is difficult. Being able to sell through a narrative structure becomes much more important. And one of the reasons that, like in a way, this all seems like added complexity, but if you try to sell just using sort of features and benefits through social media and other channels that are sort of permission marketing based, where people are able to switch off, they're just going to turn off these days. Ads and things don't work. Instead, we need to create more complex marketing messages that are interesting to listen to. They're about real people. They're about challenges that they face along the journey. They're like us. People are really looking for stories of people like them, because a case study or a testimonial or a success story of someone just like you is probably the most persuasive marketing. So, mastering this storytelling approach, which is very much based on the hero's journey, if anyone's heard of it. I did have a slide here, and I haven't inserted it yet, of the hero's journey in different movie franchises. But some of the most successful blockbuster films of all time use this same narrative story structure, where there is a hero of the story, and the hero thinks they have this little problem that they need to solve. There's an issue in their village, or they've got this problem that needs to solve. Then it turns out there's actually much bigger events at work, and that the stakes are much higher than they thought. And a mysterious guide comes into their world, who says that they have to go on a journey and face a series of dangers. And at the end of this journey, they achieve a goal, they win a prize, which is transformative. And this is the formula behind Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Ulysses. Half of the stories in the Bible and other sort of epic legends across many cultures. This storytelling structure is preserved across different cultures because this is part of the way our brain works. So it's this messaging structure, which I've sort of brought from corporate marketing into my business, is it's not just made up for no reason. It's very much based on, this is the way stories that people love to hear run. And by learning to represent your business through that storytelling, you can be marketing without selling. You can be telling stories about successful outcomes in your business, that are interesting and engaging and appealing to people, and the lessons are sort of implicit and subconscious. It doesn't feel like you're being sold to necessarily, but it's showing people how your product works rather than telling them. And that's a much more appealing way to interact with customers. All right, terrific. Well, I think that probably brings us to our. We're just past 8 o'clock, so if there's no other questions, we'll wrap up. in the next webinar, what I'll be covering is really what information to share at each stage. So we might just quickly recap this on the website to review the upcoming lessons. So I'll just change the screen I'm sharing. Just bear with me. Okay, so we've gone through, last time was our beachhead strategy. That's being known for one thing, and our first stage of marketing is communicating one thing. The second stage of marketing is communicating why change and what these three problems are. The third stage, and this is summarized in this brand architecture slide, the third stage we share, and the numbers don't matter, but these numbers work well. 5 principles or 5 steps or 5 sort of pillars to our process or solution. And this is where we're starting to connect our expert knowledge of how to get to the solution with the customer's understanding. The module we've just covered is very much about the buyer's journey. That's all about the customer, and we're just introducing our solution and our product and its differentiators. But the next step is when they say, oh, well, so how do I get there? And that's when you say, well, I have a process to help you achieve this outcome. And it has, for example, 5 steps. The next stage is a more detailed look into how we actually deliver the product or service. So that's often an internal process. And then the final level of our architecture is the actual bits and pieces and the things and activities that we do. And we don't try to tell people about the end of that story at the start of our marketing. People might say, oh, tell me all about the product features and, how fast does it go and things like that. You don't want to have those discussions until they understand why they need to change, how you can help them, your unique process, and how you're going to deliver it. So it's important to get this sequence right. Very often people will think, oh, look, I just want to get to the end. Just tell me the magic button I need to push to get the result. Don't worry about all the stuff in between. If you market like that, then people won't see the value. You need to take them through this process step by step. And so that's what we'll reconvene next week. I think it's a Tuesday. It could be the Thursday, but you'll get an email from GoToWebinar confirming the date. I'll send you another email as well, and look forward to seeing you then. Great. Thank you, Bronwyn, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, Dallas. Hope everyone has a great night, and thanks for attending. We'll see you next week.